Hey guys, welcome back to Another Craftsmanship and welcome to part 4 of our knife making build along. So we are following along with the Knife Talk podcast, and on their last episode they actually shouted us out, calling us the kind of Knife Talk build along. So definitely go check them out. They do a really awesome job. I also want to shout out someone from Instagram this week. He kind of been posting some pictures along the way and finished 2 really beautiful knives. So definitely go check him out at JH_knive_Jimmy. So that's JH_KNIVE_JIMMI. Definitely check his knives out and give him a shout out. So this week we're going to be doing our handle scales and our glue up. So I'll walk you through that whole process. But we chose a really beautiful piece of Bacote. This just has a really gorgeous kind of lots of grain, lots of character, and it's this really nice black and yellow. So I'll be using this for the handle and then using white liners in between. And that's just a really nice pop from this rich yellow and black to the white to the metal. It just pops the handle scales and looks really beautiful. So I'll go ahead and start trimming this stuff down, and we'll go ahead and walk you through the whole process of cutting your wood, shaping it, drilling your holes, and getting everything glued up. So we're taking a look at this wood, and I love this grain going around this knot, but I'm a little worried that if I try to use this for a standard scale, that this knot will pop out without me actually stabilizing this entire piece. So I'm going to come down. I want to save this because I think it actually might work really well for a hidden tang knife or just another knife in the future. So I'm going to come down, came down about 4.5 inches, which is kind of a standard length that I keep for knife handles, and made a mark. It's because the next piece of wood down here past this just has some beautiful grain on both sides. We have really gorgeous grain here going around all these kind of little teeny pins and stuff, lots of beautiful figure there. And then if we flip this over, you can see the back side also has really beautiful, this difference between the light and dark areas and great kind of outlines and lots of beautiful figure. So we're going to go ahead and trim this off, and we'll use one of these pieces for the handle. This is the side that has these really nice, figure around these little teeny pins, and then also has a lot of variation in this. So we're going to do it on this side. Set up my block, plenty of material on the top and bottom without wasting a ton, and then I'll just trace that out. I just finished cutting out the block. Now I'm going to scribe a line down both sides, and we'll trim this straight down the middle, though I have 2 sides for my scales. So after we've kind of looked through this a few more times and deliberated, we really like the way that the grain turns here and is going to follow the shape of the handle. So that'll be the orientation of the handle. Either way, this is still really thick right now, so a lot of this is going to get ground down, so it may change completely, but at least we'll start off with that. Either way, it's going to be a beautiful handle. So the next thing I want to do is I'm actually going to be flattening out my scales. So right now this has just been run through the bandsaw, so I'm going to flatten these out on my sander, get them nice and flat before we drill all the holes to put the pins in. I have my brass rod. I'm going to be using this as 1/4 inch brass rod for my pins. So I'm just making sure that I have enough that goes all the way through and overhangs on both sides. mark this. I have 2 of these, so I'll cut this one off and measure the second one the same length. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to tape this liner material on here just with a piece of tape around the middle just so it doesn't move. I'm going to line this up on the scale. I'll take it over to drill press and I'll drill out my first hole through the handle. So I'm going to leave the metal in here, drill straight down through the handle. Then I'll put one of my pins in that hole before I move over to drill out my second hole. That way I know that it lines up perfectly with the first hole. And then I'll repeat that entire process on the second scale. I'm going to add some additional holes in between these 2 holes and just going into the wood because I want to be able to let the epoxy penetrate between the metal and the wood. And so I'm going to drill through the liner material a few times. So I'm going to mark off where I want the front of this handle to go and just want just a little bit of a gentle curve here. So I mark off on the bottom and the top of the handle, and then I can fill in. You see I just drew across here, so that way I have this gentle curve here. I'm going to trim this off. I'll trim it off on the other side, and then we'll clamp them, we'll put them back together with the pins, and we'll finish off this front edge before we do our glue up. The front edge shaped the way I want it, so now I want to put a taper that goes out both sides from the material in the middle. Now I have my pins on both sides to deal with, so I can't taper past those pins, so I'm going to have to run the taper from basically about here up to this edge. So just a little bit of a taper, and I'll set my work rest on my grinder to that angle. We'll trim it, hit the pins through to the other side, flip it over, and do the taper on the other side as well, so they're nice and even. I'm going to start with 220 and I'm just going to clean the front of this up Then I'll move over to 400 and then to 600. I just want to make sure that the front of this front edge of the white liner, as well as this front taper, at least the middle of it, maybe about 1/4 of an inch out or so, is completely finished before I do my glue up, because I'm not going to be able to access and be able to sand that once I glue everything up, because then I run the risk of scratching up the blade. Before you do your glue up, just to protect it, you know, the time and effort you put into grinding and cleaning, you don't want to get any glue on the blade if we can avoid it. You see I have everything laid out in front of me in the order that I'm going to be gluing it up. And that's important because once you have your glue mixed up, you don't want to have to be figuring out what piece is going where. You put something on, it's not the right order, you got to pull it off, especially with scales and handles and liners. So everything's ordered the way I want to do it. Now I'm going to clean everything with mineral spirits first, so I have all the dust and all the grime and oils off, and then I'll mix up my epoxy and I'll get everything glued up with the pins all together in the right order and clamp it up. So the very final thing I'm doing is I'm cleaning up the front edge, any glue squeeze out on that front edge where the handle meets the blade. Now again, that's just the spot that we won't be able to get to once we do, once everything is finished and glued up, because anything that we do in that spot is just going to run the risk of scratching the blade again. So I'm cleaning it up with mineral spirits first, just wiping off the main area, and then I'll use a Q-tip and come through and just clean up every little bit I can. Ooh, man, that looks so pretty. That's gonna be gorgeous. All right, well, we've got everything glued up and everything is really nice and clean and everything's nice and tight to the blade in the middle, which is key. Anytime you're doing a glue up, you wanna make sure everything is flat, and this looks really good, so I'm really happy with it. So next week on our episode on the part 5 of the build, we'll be doing the grand finale. So we're gonna be doing shaping the handle down and doing all the finish work. So we would love to shout anyone out who's been building along with us. So if you haven't already, go check us out on Instagram at the Art of Craftsmanship. And if you're building along, please tag us with the Art of Craftsmanship BA. I'm following that tag and I'd love to see your work. I'm going to be shouting everybody out. We're going to do a big grand finale next week on part 5. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and like, and we'll see you in the next video.